Retro.
And welcome, everybody, to another Tiny Toons episode of the Animaniacast.
Action! Mango fruit. Cut. Not fruit, juice. Mango juice. Let's do it again. Action! Mango drink. Juice! Mango juice! Mango liquid refreshment. Mango wango. I think Charlie Weaver should block. You imbecile! You call yourself an actor? Give me that! You open the bottle and say, mango juice. Print that.
And welcome, everybody, to another episode of Talkin Tiny Toons. Yes, this is the spin-off series of the Animaniacast. And today we're talking all about another episode of Tiny Toon Adventures. We're going to be revisiting our favorite jokes, and of course, the cultural references, and there are quite a few in this one. And then in the end, we're going to give this episode of Tiny Toon Adventures a water tower rating. I am Joey, and joining me once again is my little brother Nathan.
Mango juice.
Bang. Mango wango. And across the country in Georgia, there's Kelly.
Hello.
Hello. Well, yes, this episode, we're going over Kon Ducki. Yes, it's episode 11 from season 2 of Tiny Toon Adventures. This is an episode that was voted on once again by our patrons over at patreon.com/Animaniacast. They tell us what to do and they give us great suggestions. And this is one that has been on some lists quite for some time. And I do remember this one as a kid, specifically Hamton getting hit on the head. Stands out for me. But what do you guys think? First of all, do either of you remember this episode when it was originally shown, or at least do you remember seeing it before today?
Barely.
No.
I think I vaguely remember the mango juice scene, but
Yes.
it's just like rewatching it made me laugh because I was like, I think I remember.
Yeah. It's like scratching that itch in your childhood brain. You're like, this is looking familiar. Yeah. Well, Kelly doesn't remember it, but let me ask you, Kelly, if someone were to ask you in just a few words to like describe this story, what would you tell them?
It's based on a book, because I think Kon Tiki was actually a book before it was a movie.
Oh, maybe.
By Thor Heyerdahl. And I know this because Jeopardy.
Oh, there you go.
Back when I used to watch it.
And Nathan, what about you?
Well, imagine putting the Titanic and Star Wars and E.T. and putting them all together. This isn't quite that good, but it's a pretty good episode. So.
Yeah. It certainly doesn't have the same budget as them, but yes. Yeah, I actually went and watched the movie Kon Tiki in preparation for today's discussion.
You were supposed to watch Kon Ducki, Joey.
No, darn it. No.
This is wrong.
I thought we were just
talking about
going through
completely different things now.
Oh, man. No, I watched both. I watched Kon Ducki first, and then I watched Kon Tiki. So I had to say, like, okay, what's the similarities? And I guess, I would see that there could be a book on this before. I first heard about the movie, I think when I was in college, and we were going over migration patterns in anthropology. And yeah, the folks who were originally in the Kon Tiki ship had a theory that people in South America migrated to, I think it was the Polynesia, I want to say, because they noticed that there was a lot of similarities in their art and their like statues and stuff like that. So I don't know.
Oh, so the book Kon Tiki has been translated into 70 languages.
Wow.
And a dramatized version of the story was released in 2012, and it was nominated for the Best Foreign Language Oscar at the 85th Academy Awards.
Well, there you go. See, I saw I think the movie that I saw was like in 1950.
Yes, as 1951. That one won an Academy Award as well.
And it's a very different documentary style than people like. You can watch it for free on Pluto, and you could pay a couple bucks and watch it on Amazon Prime. But it's a very different style than people are used to today. It's not very flashy. But it's very interesting to kind of watch the people actually on the boat, the real people on the boat. But yeah, some of the documentary techniques that we're used to, such as the Ken Burns effect and things like that, they're not there. They just show you like, and here we were fishing, and it'll show like just a slideshow of different people doing things on the boat. So, it's almost like you're listening. I would almost suggest just listening to it more than necessarily watching it. I was basically listening to it, and every now and then I'd look at my phone to see, oh, what does that look like? There's a lot of things about whales almost taking their boat down, and yeah, we'll talk about it more as we go. But Nathan, before we get into our discussion of Kon Ducki, though, can you please tell us, when did this episode first premiere?
This episode came out on Monday, February 10th of 1992, which, as we all know, was the same day the IRS and Willie Nelson settled on a $9 million tax bill. This was out of $16.7 million that the IRS wanted. So I don't know the details of that. It sounds kind of interesting. Like, I don't know. Willie Nelson apparently owed a lot of taxes.
That sounds vaguely familiar as a kid, hearing about Willie Nelson and taxes.
This was 4 days before the release of the movie Wayne's World. Okay. And this was 1 day before the birth of Taylor Lautner. Do you know who that is?
The name is
the werewolf from Twilight.
Yes, Jacob. He was also Shark Boy in Shark Boy and Lava. That's what I always know.
Well, very appropriate dealing with sharks since we have a lot of water.
Exactly. We got the Shark Boy himself here. So,
well, let's go ahead and get into our discussion of Kon Ducki. And Kon Ducki was written by Sherry Stoner, Peter Hastings, and Stephen Hibbert. It was directed by Rich Ahrens. And Nathan, why don't you tell us what happens here in the first half of Kon Ducki?
Well, we open with Buster telling us that we're going to see a movie by... I don't know, some movie. So we're going to watch a movie or something. So we open title screens. We get to this. It's very cinematic. Kon Ducki, produced and created by Plucky Duck. Like, he's done everything. Catered it. He did everything. And we open up. We're in the traveling log. There's a traveling group, and Plucky's talking about his ancient ancestors from the 1970s, how they migrated to the country. Not by flight, as is hypothesized, but he thinks they sailed here by boat.
And what's more, I shall construct my ship using only materials that my ancestors had back in 1977.
You mean things like mood rings, man?
Or the midi skirt? Platform shoes?
And I shall do it in 21 days. Let the adventure begin.
Using only the materials that they had available at the time of the 1970s. Ooh.
Specifically 1977.
1977, yes.
Which makes me think of Star Wars immediately.
Star Wars and Close Encounters.
Ooh, okay. So it's a good year in the 70s.
It's a good year of movies. So he has to create a boat. he mostly has his assistant do it, which is Hamton, who's playing. So Plucky's not playing Plucky. Because he's in a movie. He's playing Kon Ducki, right? And he had his friend is Bon Voyage, or what's his Kumbaya.
Bon Voyage sounds cool, though.
Bon Voyage, I would have almost gone for that more than Kumbaya. But I guess Kumbaya is somewhat 70s-ish. A little bit more 60s-ish, but whatever. He's building the boat, and immediately it sinks. And then we do it again, and then it sails off fine. So there's a bit of, like, a lot of like little joke gags. There's also the little birdie. What's Shirley? Shirley, right? Well, no, it's Shirley's the other duck. Like
Sweetums.
Sweetie.
Yeah.
Sweetums is the Muppet.
It's like Tweety.
Sweetums is the Muppet. Sweetie is the bird on Tiny Toons.
Yeah. So Sweetie's there as well. She's just doing the generic parrot jokes and everything like that.
And this is Little Parrot, along for comic relief and bemused, bitter, overused asides.
It's a living.
So they're sailing off. They have no wind, so it's terrible. Plucky's got his finger stuck, and it's like 18 days later or something, and we're still no wind. And then Plucky decides, hey, I will do the ancient wind dance, or the wind song.
I know. I'll do my ancestors' ancient dance to the wind god.
The wind god?
Yes, straight pig. Giver of wind to the noble sailor, he has been alive forever.
And he wrote the very first song.
Oh, wind in my sails, bending my rails. Oh.
And then all of a sudden the wind starts blowing. It's like, oh my gosh. And Sweetie's like blowing a fan and saying, hey, had to get him to shut up some way. But next they suddenly are up against a giant boat is going to crush them. And Kon Ducki's like, oh no, we're to Hamton, Kumbaya. You are captain now. So now Kumbaya is captain, and he's like, what am I supposed to do? Tell him to stop? And Sweetie's like, exactly. So she does a little toll thing. The whole boat comes to a screeching halt, gives them some money, and goes around them, and they're fine.
We did it! I am a good leader. Decisions made in stressful situations don't count.
And then Kon Ducki's like, oh, I'll take this back. Oh, I forgot to mention, this boat's sinking. Kon Ducki opened a hole in the boat. The whole boat's sinking. So also they're about to get hit. But then they dodge that. He takes the captain helm back, and then but then like, oh, we're still sinking. He's like, okay, well, you could be captain again. So then Kumbaya fixes the ship, and then Kon Ducki takes the captain hat once again.
Good work! You're demoted now. I'm the leader.
And we're good. So, and then, they're sailing. It's like day 21, and they hit an island, and we're like, we'll never get there. But the important thing is that we're friends. And then they're like, hey, but we are here. And then he's like, aha, I did it myself.
I did it! Yahoo! Wait till those Papa's Explorer Club buffoons hear about this. I, Pluck Heyerdahl, am the bravest explorer of all time! Mommy, make it stop!
Well, somebody had to shut him up.
They are into the island of Salinas is the area that they're trying to get.
Which is off of Monterey, I believe, in California.
I guess. And like immediately they headed off in the complete opposite direction. So it was kind of they could have got there a lot quicker if they just went.
Well, there we go. So we had a lot of references in this one right here. We had obviously a ton of 70s snacks and music.
Do we have all the 70s items that, like my ancestors, I've brought with me on this journey?
Yes, Captain Pluck.
The Popeil Pocket Fisherman. Check. The Presto Individual Hamburger Maker. Check. A pair of clogs. Check. Extra polyester shirts with enormous cuffs and collars. Check. Some pet rocks. Check. Really big headphones. Check. A full-length Keep On Truckin' poster. Peter Frampton, the Bee Gees, and ABBA 8-track tapes. Keeping with my theory, we prepared to dine on the delectable food my ancestors did back in the ancient 1970s.
Here you go. Hamburger helper, fiddle faddle, cheese whiz, and screaming yellow sulkers with a delicious glass of bubble up to wash it all down.
It's just crazy. Like this was 15 years after 1977, right? It's 1992.
Yeah.
So then it's now been like 30 years since this episode.
That's kind of crazy to think about.
Wow. Thanks
like,
for making me feel so old.
I know, but you think about it, like it's like, oh, that nostalgic time back like 15 years ago, 2006. It's like how many like little snacks? Like it was. Things are pretty much the same culture-wise in a lot of ways as they've been like the past 20 years. It looks
the drastic change between 1977 and 92 was a lot bigger than it was between 2006.
The whole later half of the 20th century, it seems like every decade had its own style, and then all of a sudden, this new millennia, and when we're like, you know what, just technology changes.
Well, now we're just bringing back styles that have already happened. Like 70s has been kind of big this last year with the prairie dresses or something. I think that's
yes, that's right. Yep.
It has kept me from not buying any new clothes, which is good for my bank account.
But yeah, there's a lot of references here to other stuff as well. We had Gilligan's Island go by, and the Mutiny on the Bounty, and was it 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea?
I thought I saw the Nautilus
because he was it was Kirk Douglas.
I was wondering who that was. I was like,
I kept wanting to say Kurt Russell, and I was like, I know that's not who that is.
No, it's not Kurt. Yes, but I don't think it was Maurice LaMarche doing his Kirk Douglas this time.
Really, I thought it sounded like him.
I don't know. We'll have to check the.
It sounded like Michelangelo from Hooked on a Ceiling to me.
Oh boy, I don't
know. I might have it in the show notes too. It's possible.
Okay.
No. Kurt Douglas by Maurice LaMarche.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, he was an early. It was an early Kirk Douglas.
I know my Hooked on a Ceiling voices.
These cameos make me want to puke.
Well, he does it the best. I mean, his Kirk Douglas is always fantastic. So nice to see that return right there. I think I might have just thought it sounded different because just the caricature of Kirk Douglas looked so just slightly different. So maybe that had some effect mentally on my brain. I don't know. I'm trying to justify why I thought it was somebody.
Why you're wrong.
Why I'm wrong. I don't know. Anyway, but I guess we should basically talk more about like just how it's kind of similar, different than the actual movie. The raft itself that they were making this time, it's made out of 70s furniture, which I thought was kind of cool. In the original movie, they make the raft out of the same materials that an ancient sailor would use. So they used balsa wood logs. The actual balsa wood, the stuff that breaks over your head and everything in the movies. Well, they used balsa wood, the actual tree trunks. They put it together, and they didn't even use like screws or anything like that. They used wooden planks to kind of hold, and the rope to hold it all together. And they just like Plucky, using having all this different food and everything that's from the 70s. They only. I don't think they brought any water with them necessarily. They just ate fish.
Did they not have water back then?
No, they probably should have brought a little bit of water, but yeah, they drank the what do they call it, the lymph node,
the seawater.
No, they didn't. They drank a lot of seawater. Actually, they kind of did. They said that when it rained, they would take a mixture of rainwater and like 60% rainwater and 40% seawater and mix it together so that they could drink it while going on this boat. And Plucky is very, he keeps saying he wants to get across in 21 days or something like that. And they were out there much longer. I want to say it was over 100 days at sea, and they were just going off of the current of the sea current straight out to Polynesia, and using the wind as well, which it doesn't seem like they ever got stuck like Plucky did, because it always seemed like they were moving. But the journey did take a lot longer. So anyway, I was a little worried when I was watching the movie, like, is there going to be a kumbaya kind of character in this? But there's not. It's just a bunch of Explorer Club people trying to go from one place to the other. And there was a parrot, like Sweetie, but the parrot did not stay throughout the entire trip. I think they said after the 60th day, a storm came and it left.
No.
And I hope that bird survived, but I don't know about.
It's hard.
It doesn't.
Like,
I don't know where it would have
land.
gone.
Yeah,
there was no land. They kept saying like all these like fish would basically just jump right into the boat sometimes. The flying fish would just jump in the boat, and they had a bunch of other fish that they would have to. They didn't have any fishing lines really. They would have hooks that they would just kind of put off the boat, and fish would grab it, and they would hit them on the head. It's a very interesting documentary.
Did they see sharks?
They did see sharks, and they killed some sharks too, which I was like, oh, don't kill the sharks. But then I was also like, yeah, but I guess you're out there in the middle of nowhere, and if you just let the sharks just be, they would probably get into your boat, because just like Plucky, where you kind of have this raft, there was like slits and slats in the boat that they were floating along. So yeah, you're just like in a log raft floating across the ocean. Things are going to happen. But luckily, they all survived, and there was only a crash at the very end when they hit a coral reef at the end.
How many people were on that raft?
About 5 or 6, I want to say.
Wow.
Yeah, they were all kind of hanging out, and there is a naked... I think at this one they say on your is that the next part where they say on your right there's a naked man? Is that in the second part or something like that?
Oh, they talk about the naked pig.
The naked pig. Mm-hmm. There is one of the sailors they filmed. I think he's naked in one shot. It's kind of hard to tell for sure, but I don't know if that reference was to the movie as well, because he was swimming naked because he was having fun off the side of the boat. Anyway.
Beware, a violent sight gag approaches.
And to your left is a naked pig.
Ah, mango juice.
That's about it. Let's talk about not about the movie. Let's talk about what you guys liked about this Kon Ducki. What are some parts that kind of stood out for you?
The
first half.
Yeah.
That you thought was funny. Kelly, let's start with you.
I thought the ABBA references were funny, because then it was like, well, they're all divorced now. And I was like, well, I didn't know they were married.
Yeah, I guess was he talking about the fact that he didn't think that all the different bands were married together?
They thought that ABBA was married to each other.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Well, ABBA's like 4 people, and like I think it was like 2 married couples, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
So, and then they broke up, and then I think the band broke up. If I remember correctly. I'm not a huge ABBA fan. I just remember something my sister told me one time.
They're still doing it. They're still performing though, so that's good for them.
I thought they took a break for a while though.
Yeah, but they're about to do something with Industrial Light and Magic where they like make them look younger as they're performing or something. It's some
yeah.
digital...
I saw like the pictures of them with like the little ping pong ball.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was going to be for something like special effects. I thought it was just them being weird.
It's for some concert that they're going to do.
Oh,
I guess I'm not 100% sure, but I think you're supposed to look at them and they're going to have holographic representations of them as they perform live.
It would help if I actually clicked on articles,
I guess,
instead of just looking at pictures.
Well, I barely read the article myself.
I just like skim over stuff like, okay, they're wearing weird outfits. Okay, next.
And I looked at it and said, what's this? Technology? ABBA? Okay. Scan. Okay, I got it. Bye. Anyway, Nathan, what about you? What were some things that stood out that was funny?
I saw a shark that I'm pretty sure was from Jaws.
It almost did a Jaws theme. I always want them to do the Jaws theme, and I
think they got about as close as they wanted to get.
Yeah, I listened for it, but I didn't really hear it. So
I heard like a boom, 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 boom,
okay.
And I'm just like, I mean, like it's something.
Well,
there's music.
Well, I particularly like the animation in this one. that really stood out for me. Is just every frame looks really good, and I like the different 70s snacks, and that made Plucky feel sick. Even though Bubble Up, I think, would make you feel a little bit better if you were feeling sick, but that's just me. Although I did have to look up Screaming, I think it's called Screaming Yellow Zonkers or something like that. To say, what is that? And it's like a popcorn thing that they had in the 70s. Actually, they stopped making it, I think, in the mid-2000s, approximately 15 years ago, as we were saying, which, as we know, is, ancient history. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the second half of today's story, which was the making of Kon Ducki. And Kelly, why don't you tell us what happened? How was this movie made?
Okay. So Buster's standing outside a theater and he's all dressed up and he's talking about Kon Ducki is on the big screen and everybody loved it. But how was the movie made? And so then we launch into the making of Kon Ducki, which is from the this time period where Tiny Toons was out. There were a lot of like making of featurettes and stuff that used to come on like Disney Channel with all the new movies, and I guess now they all come on DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff when the movies come out.
And ironically, people don't even care about those anymore. It's a lot of the making of I miss now.
Oh man, I do too.
Because they it seems like they're all, well, I mean, Disney Plus is still doing them, sort of. They do a good job with them, but a lot of the special
those are
features,
fun to watch.
I used to watch a show in the 90s called Movie Magic that would talk about Terminator and Star Wars. And, so behind the scenes stuff was really big back then. So anyway, so they go and it looks like Plucky's on the raft, but it's actually like people just kind of bouncing him around and splashing him with buckets of water. And Buster's explaining that for Kon Ducki, locations like Brazil, Tunisia, and Tibet were not used. It was all done on a sound stage. And, he said that he didn't read the book, but if he had, he would have loved it. But he knew it was going to make a great film.
When I first saw the cover to the book Kon Ducki, I thought it would make a great film. And if I'd read it, I would have been sure.
And, he's really embracing his director role. He's throwing tantrums and yelling at everybody through his megaphone. And during his interviews, he's wearing a baseball hat, and the hat keeps changing. And I noticed particularly because at one point it says 1941, and then it changes to like an A maybe, and then some other times you can't even really tell what's on it. But 1941 grabbed my attention because that's one of Spielberg's movies, not one of my favorites.
I've never been able to get through more than 5 minutes of that movie.
I did watch it once. And it's just a comedy I don't really like.
Well,
it's like a dated comedy too. I mean,
it's one of those comedies that's like, it's a zany comedy. And then as a kid, though, I was watching it and going, I get it, but I get that they're trying to be funny, but it just wasn't working.
It had a great cast. But even Spielberg kind of admitted, like, maybe I shouldn't have done it. Kind of thing. I think he had to higher aspirations for it, but whatever. So anyway, so then Plucky, they explain how he has to go through many hours of makeup. And so they make a plaster mold of his face.
A plaster mold is made of his face and then carefully removed by a time-tested secret movie magic method.
Monsieur Directeur Plucky, someone has parked in your very private parking space.
What? Who? How dare? Who? Nobody parks in my space. Nobody!
She makes the mask from the mold with latex and then puts it over him and puts it on upside down. But he's like, don't you wish, you could look this good, or something to that effect. So it's kind of like, what's the point? Looks exactly the same. But, and then Sweetie is actually Richard Nixon that in costume.
I am not a crook.
I'm only getting scale.
Then Hamton, Plucky is supposed to get hit by a mast after saying mango juice, but he wants Hamton to be his stunt person. stunt duck. And then Hamton's kind of scared, and then he can't get it right. He says, mango fruit, mango liquid refreshment. And I mean, he keeps getting hit. And every time he gets hit, you know, his eyes go in different directions, his tongue's hanging out, and teeth falling out. And of course, his performance gets worse and worse because now he's like concussed.
He's talking about Charlie Weaver for the block at the end. It was so some Hollywood, what was that thing? Hollywood Squares reference.
Is that what that was?
Yeah, I think the original. I don't even know who Charlie Weaver is off the top of my head.
Nope.
But yeah, there you go.
And then Plucky's saying that the crew did a lot of special effects for the movie.
We did a tremendous amount of special effects for this movie. If you added up all the effects in Close Encounters, E.T., and the Back to the Future movies, you'd have a very large number.
But for the storm scene, they built like a really large fan system. And I think that's the one that they went to Industrial Light and Hocus Pocus for.
Yes.
Which, you know, people that pay close attention to that will realize that it's parodying Industrial Light and Magic.
Yeah.
And we all know Industrial Light and Magic. I hope we do, because it's the company that did Star Wars and all the, I mean, it basically was born because of Star Wars, and it's done a whole bunch of movies since. So, and they're still awesome. There's a lot more special effects houses out now than there were back then. A lot more competition, but they still do a lot of amazing stuff. So they get to talking about like servo controlled motors and, you know, using to make the boat move and things, but it's actually just people standing underneath the boat moving them. So
not only that, but I think it's like people, like, it's the weirdest thing. It looks like it's almost people operating other people who it's odd.
It looked weird.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, I was trying to figure out, like, are these people holding up other people, or I think these are people actually like puppeteering puppets to it.
Yeah.
So if someone wants to look at that shot and try to figure out what the heck is going on, I'd like to know, because these people that these other people are holding don't have legs. I honestly think they're people that are holding puppets who are holding the Kon Tiki. It's a puppet on a puppet. Like, I heard a hat on a hat before, but a puppet on a puppet?
I don't know.
That's crazy. Anyway.
Okay. So then Hamton's talking about, so it's super awesome working with Plucky, but he's also reading off cue cards because he's like, I don't know what the last word is. And Plucky says, it's genius. And then they're talking about the soundtrack being added, and Sneezer's playing a kazoo, and Sneezer's cute. And Plucky's happy with the film and decides to drink a cup of mango juice. But he says, mango juice. And then the mask falls on him, just like it did with Hamton.
I'm a genius. I am a genius. A toast to me. Mango juice.
There we go.
Ta-da.
And there we have our movie. It was nice that Plucky actually finally got to make a movie after Hollywood Plucky, you know?
And it's really good. It's a good...
Well, I mean, it had a whole beginning, middle, and end, and had it released, plus a special features. I mean, wow. It's quite impressive. There's quite a bit of stuff in this second part that's really funny. I mean, the mango juice bit, I mean, that is probably, I think that honestly, that has to be the number one reason why people even recommended this cartoon to begin with. But Nathan, what were some things that stood out for you in the second half?
Mango juice.
Mango juice.
No, I mean, it was just fun seeing whenever people have to like say nice things about Plucky. It's obviously he's written it, but
yes.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a cute, like, behind the scenes kind of thing. I enjoyed all of that.
I particularly liked the Pluggy Doug or Pluggy Dude.
Getting really mad at your chair.
Yeah, because the chair keeps changing, like Plunky Dunk or something. You know, a bunch of different misspellings of his name. That was a good running gag that they didn't necessarily call attention to each time, but stuff you could see as well. There was also a really weird reference dealing with the Warner Brothers water tower that said something to the effect of, after we're done, what do they say? After we're done kicking Columbia out or something?
After we booted out Columbia.
Yeah.
Which could be a reference to the Warner Brothers and Columbia Pictures sharing ownership of the famous Warner Brothers backlog in Burbank from 1972 to 1990.
Thank you, Nathan, for finally figuring that out, because
I just read the show notes that I gave to you.
Oh, wow. Well, there you go. They kicked. So there you go. I was trying to figure out what the heck that was, but I didn't read. So there we go.
Never learned how.
I know. The truth comes out finally. Well, Kelly, were there any other moments in this second half that really kind of stood out as something that you liked quite a bit?
I think I mentioned all of mine.
All righty. Well, I think we had better get straight to our water tower rating. What do you two think? Out of 5 water towers, how many would you give this episode of Tiny Toon Adventures? Nathan, let's start with you.
Well, let's see. There's no Babs Bunny at all in this episode. So if you're a big fan of Babs Bunny, which I don't need a Babs. I mean, like, I like Babs.
But we got Shirley and Fifi and Sweetie and I guess, yeah. There you go.
But yeah, we just didn't get Tress McNeil, I guess. So I don't know. No, I'm going to say 4. I'll say 4 out of 5 because it was a very funny, especially mango juice. There's at least one water tower just for mango juice.
Kelly, what about you? How many would you give this episode?
I think I'll also go with 4. I'm not generally the biggest Plucky fan, but there were so many references and so much in the episode, and Spielberg references, of course, which gives it like an extra water tower. And I thought it was fun.
Well, I gotta mention one more possible, and if it's a Spielberg reference, it's pretty weak. But when when Plucky needs his lines, and he's like looking around on Hamton for lines, he pulls his eyelids down, and I thought, oh, that's kind of like in Raiders with the girl like who has I love you written on my eye. It made me think of it a little bit. It's probably not,
I think about it, but it might be a reference.
Might be. I'm giving this one a 4 as well. I was going to give it 3.5, but going over it again and then actually watching the movie that it's / book that it's based upon, I have a better appreciation for it, I think. The mango juice bit is classic. It's great stuff. It's wonderfully animated. Like I said, every single frame of this is really fantastic. So, yeah, that's a solid 4, and that makes it a triple agreement. Woo! All right. Well, let's go ahead and get to some contact information. Kelly, where can people get in contact with you online?
I am on Twitter, Yoda Princess, YODAPRNCSS, or email me, Kelly@BigShinyRobot.com.
All right, and Nathan, what about you?
Oh, Joey, I'm on Twitter, DjangoFT, that's me.
All right, and as for the Animaniacast, we're on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and a few other social places that I'd never really use, but you can try those too. And, of course, the best place to go to find out about us is, of course, over at RetroZap. We're a proud member of the RetroZap Podcasting Network, and if you want to see what we got going on over there, just head to Animanicast.com. That'll take you to our RetroZap archives, and you'll be able to easily access all the other stuff on RetroZap as well, whether it's podcasts or articles. It's all happening over there. And if you're a super fan of Animaniacs or of our show, well, become a patron of us and support our show. You can do so by going to patreon.com/Animaniacast. You'll get bonus audio, including audio commentaries of every episode of Animaniacs featuring Tom Ruger. It's super cool. And sometimes special guests. Yeah. So a lot of cool stuff heading over there at the Patreon. So head over there, subscribe to us on your favorite podcast player. You guys know the rest. And you can head to our Discord by going to discord.animaniacast.com, and you can join the conversation over there. Well, that'll do it for today's episode. So, for Nathan and Kelly, this is Joey saying, good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
This podcast is not endorsed by Warner Brothers or Amblin Entertainment and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Animaniacs, Tiny Toon Adventures, Freakazoid, the Warner Brothers logo, all names, pictures, and sounds are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of the Animaniacast unless otherwise indicated.
Look at my chair!
Pluggy Doug.
How am I supposed to be a creative genius in a chair for Pluggy Doug? Are you insane? You simpleton! You... Capable assistant, you! Please fix the chair, dear one. Oh, the burden of brilliance. Did you get that?